Welcome to The Explainer. So, when we punish someone for a crime, what are we actually trying to do? It's a question that gets right to the heart of our entire justice system, and today we're going to unpack the answers. I mean, really think about it. Is the point just to make the criminal pay for what they did? Is it to scare other people so they don't do the same thing? Or is there maybe a deeper, more complicated purpose? Okay, let's dive in and explore the core ideas that have shaped our laws for centuries. So, before we get into the really juicy stuff, let's get on the same page. On paper, punishment is pretty straightforward. It's the tool the state uses to keep things in order. But the why behind it, well, that's where things get fascinating. And it all starts with our most basic human instinct. Yeah, the oldest, most gut-level answer is just simple revenge. This first theory of punishment is all about settling the score. You all know this phrase, right? It perfectly captures the spirit of what's called the Retributive Theory. The idea is as simple as it gets. If you cause harm, you have to be harmed right back. So the key thing to get here is that this kind of punishment is totally backward-looking. Its only job is to make the offender suffer for what they've already done. The death penalty for murder is the ultimate example. It's literally an eye for an eye. But you can probably see the big criticism. This approach is often seen as really harsh, and maybe more importantly, it does absolutely nothing to change the person. It's just pure payback. And that leads us to the next logical question, doesn't it? Does revenge actually stop more crime from happening down the line? This question sparked a huge shift in thinking, from looking backward at the crime to looking forward to prevent future ones. And that brings us to the deterrent theory. See, the goal here isn't revenge, it's strategy. The whole idea is to make the punishment so public and so feared that people will think twice before breaking the law. It's all about creating a massive disincentive. Now, what's really interesting is that this idea of deterrence works on two different levels. On the one hand, you've got individual deterrence. You punish one person so harshly they personally never ever want to go through that again. But then you have general deterrence, which is using that person's punishment as a public example to scare everybody else straight. Building on this is an even more direct way to prevent crime, the preventive theory. Forget about fear and psychology for a second. This one is about simple logistics. If you incapacitate an offender, put them in prison, you physically stop them from being able to commit more crimes out in society. But just like the revenge model, the criticism is pretty obvious. It only works as long as they're locked up. It doesn't actually change who the person is. And this is the real turning point. Is it enough to just contain a problem, or should we actually be trying to solve it? This question kicked off a whole new evolution in how we think about justice. This next phase shifts the entire focus away from punishing the act and towards treating the person who did it. It's a pretty radical change in perspective. This amazing quote from a 1977 court case just nails the philosophy. The idea is, if criminals are made, not born, then maybe they can be unmade or, remade into something better. And this is the Reformative Theory. It treats crime not as some moral evil that needs to be punished, but more like a disease that needs to be treated. The offender is seen as a patient. So the goal isn't payback or scaring people. It's rehabilitation. The objective is to use things like counseling, education, and job training to actually reform the person so they can one day safely come back to society. This is the thinking behind things like the juvenile justice system. So let's recap. We've talked about getting revenge for the crime, preventing future crimes, and even reforming the criminal. But through all of that, there's one person whose needs have been almost completely ignored. The victim, right? For centuries, the whole justice equation was all about the state and the offender. It took a much newer theory to finally ask, hey, what does the person who was actually harmed by all this need? This idea is the foundation of the compensatory theory. Here, the main goal of justice isn't about hurting the offender or even fixing them. It's about healing the victim. The punishment is designed to compensate the victim for whatever loss or injury they suffered. This can be court-ordered payments or other kinds of restitution. It's a really important shift in focus. So, after going through all that, you're probably asking, okay, which theory do we actually use today? Revenge? Prevention, reform, compensation? Well, the real answer is a little bit of all of them. You see, modern criminal law isn't based on just one single idea. It's more like a recipe that mixes a bunch of different ingredients. Our system tries to balance all these goals. It uses the threat of punishment to deter crime, it offers programs to try and reform offenders, and it works to make sure victims are compensated for their loss. It's this complex blend that tries to serve justice from a whole bunch of different angles. And that kind of leaves us with one final, really important thought. In this big balancing act between payback, prevention, reform, and making things right for the victim, which one of those goals do you think should be the most important? There's no easy answer for sure, but how a society chooses to prioritize them says pretty much everything about its values.